Metaphysician's Companion.
Now, John, well, we've been thinking about stuff, haven't we? What to do next on this podcast, and
Look, I think that seeing as we've called it the Metaphysician's Companion, we might have a word or two about metaphysics.
yes. Well, what is metaphysics? I mean, we just found a meaning on AI that it said it's like drawing back behind the curtain. I think that's really intriguing.
Looking behind the curtain, it's one you see in the tarot, like the image,
Yeah.
that, who is it, the priestess, the high, whatever she is. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, it all depends on your interpretation.
Yeah, but I think the important thing for me anyway is that it does not discount science. It's different,
I think it's another part of us that we've basically, society and the way we live has really sort of like pushed it to the back shelf, for want of a better word. It's something that happens to all of us at one time, and we talked about this before. Sometimes you ignore it, and sometimes you don't.
When you say it, I take that to mean the experiences that happen to us that are somehow outside rational normal sensory explanations.
As usual, John, you've done a really good job explaining what this is. Yeah, that's basically is what we're talking about. It's experiences that beyond the normal area of physical existence as we know it, which we've been taught basically that as a materialistic society that basically everything is sort of set in stone.
Yeah, pretty much the whole cause and effect. Everything has a cause. There's logic and reason. It's all directed towards, physical explanations. And that's what I mean. That science starts out as a study of the natural world. And whereas I think that what we talk about in metaphysics is natural, it is not of the physical world directly. Yeah.
I see it as another part of us, and use that us that we don't use most of the time.
Yes.
And that's why you have people like who are so-called psychics or this or that, or whether they're using part of that, shall we call it, I was going to say energy, but that's not the right word.
I think one thing that you said earlier before we started recording was the intuition.
Yeah.
And I have my own definition for that word as the inner teacher intuition. And that we actually obtain knowledge in another way, not through the scientific method or looking at physical reality.
Like you used the version about the guy in the car of the train crash at Granville, whose mind, he stood up and his mind said move forward 5 steps, and he moved forward 5 steps and the bridge collapsed behind him, so he was free of it, where the people
where he was.
So if he'd stayed where he was, he would be a dead person, or he would be severely injured.
Yeah, and with the 9/11 thing in New York, there was instances of people who, every day they caught a certain ferry or something, and that day they decided not to.
Yeah, well, I know of a case where there was 2 guys I knew in the shoe industry, funny enough, and they were on a buying trip overseas at the time. And there's one senior guy and one younger guy. And the younger guy wanted to get back to Sydney for some reason or other. And anyway, long story short, the flight they were on was cancelled, but there was another flight available and there was only 1 seat. And the elder of the 2 said, "Oh no, I'll stay here." Now you could say it's luck, but something inside him said, "Oh no, I can stay here in the bar for another few hours and drink and get the next plane." The young man got on the plane, and it crashed into a mountain.
Well, I was in San Francisco in 1989, and I'd been touring around. I come back to San Francisco, and I had this feeling. I just wanted to get out. It was like, don't stay here. And I mean, I was booked to fly out like in a couple of days' time, but I just had this get out. And had got home back to Australia, and a couple of days later they had that big earthquake, which was, I think, September maybe in 89. Yeah. But it was just no reason to feel that kind of on edge. It was just, I was thinking, was that the earth? I had premonition of the earthquake. Like I reckon dogs and cats and things feel that there's going to be an earthquake. I don't know, but
yeah, all this sort of stuff. I mean, it's very hard to be subjective about it, but we all know of experiences of some kind that lead us to go down this track. But I actually think this metaphysics is much deeper than that.
Oh yeah.
If you want to go, these are just examples of intuition, as you're saying. But metaphysics is far more than that. It's like an inner knowledge that you can tap into.
But see, this is the thing that I keep coming up with, epistemology. How we know what we know. Whereas I do experience this intuition, this inner knowing, just bubbling to the surface, as it were. I still have doubts, and it's like, how do I know this is true? And there are cases that I can think of is that I just know, and it's not a guessing, and it's not a wanting it to be true, but it is a feeling, a certainty. When I'm not in the frame of mind, the state to experience that certainty, I go to the more scientific side and go, is that true? It's sort of like...
So I guess what we're trying to do with these podcasts is actually pull back the curtain and look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And explore the different modalities that are out there that allow this to happen. But as you said, there's actually part of us anyway that has these experiences. And most of the time we just put them aside.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting from our discussion is you shouldn't put them aside. When you get this feeling of a certainty, then you need to listen to it and act on it.
Yeah, I'd say it's worth identifying and listening to it. Trouble for myself is remembering to pay attention.
Well, I'm just going to say this. The reason we're actually doing this podcast is because you woke up from a dream this morning because you felt we should do this. So was that your inner intuition saying, we need to go down this path, John?
Well, it's the question for me is, how do I prime it? Meaning, how do I throw the question in there and have it respond? Or does it respond and I'm just not listening?
I think it's a bit of both, actually. I think you've actually, by priming it, you have to make a conscious decision to start to follow this stuff.
Well, that's what I was doing yesterday.
Yeah, so that's what you do. So you made a conscious decision to find that, and by making that conscious decision to follow this thing that happens, this voice or whatever it is or feeling, it can be anything for anybody, that you decide to follow that intuition and act on it. And I think this is what metaphysics is really all about. It's really about following and building on that intuition and taking it to another level. And this can be through other certain practices or whatever, or it can be just something you do for yourself. So, for example, you could use your intuition to become a psychic or something, or you could use your intuition to, like some people do, talk to dead people, or you can use your intuition. I use the word intuition, which is not right, but you actually taking that energy of that particular thing that happens to you and directing it in another direction. Does that make sense?
No.
No.
Because the directing of it seems to be too much in the everyday thinking.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I feel more of that what would work better for me, well, and has worked better at times, is where I go, okay, I'm not thinking about this, you tell me what to do. And
Yeah.
it's asking my inner self, my higher self, I don't know, but asking this to go, this is the word, to surrender to it, rather than trying to control it and direct it down a particular pathway, but to surrender and let that side of my part of myself guide me. That's the idea that I have.
For what is best for you.
Yeah, yeah.
In my philosophical point of view, that I would say that is you tapping into your higher consciousness, which is actually wants the best for you. So you're allowing that to happen rather than your conscious mind and your ego basically directing you. So it's outside of the ego and the logical mind.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is a source of knowledge. Yeah, it's a source of
It's the hidden
direction.
knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's why the word occult came up, because occult really means hidden knowledge.
Yeah.
That's really the word it means. So there's a hidden knowledge, but the hidden knowledge is not as you thought in the mystical books that were all dusted away in a corner that the wizard brought out and blew off and turned the pages to find the spell he wanted.
Yeah.
It's actually within yourself rather than outside of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. It's not magic, as in the sense of
Yeah,
like
exactly. So the real occult is about is being in touch with the inner intuitive you. Let's use that word.
yeah,
And working with it to create a better existence.
yeah, in whatever way that it manifests. And it's trying to get away to say there's submission and there's surrender, and submission is like, well, I'm lesser and you can tell me what to do, whereas surrender is becoming a part of it.
Absolutely.
And that is that I want my everyday consciousness to be a part of this deeper, more profound aspect of self.
So you've just answered the question we're asking here. You realise that, John?
No, I don't.
So you should listen to yourself.
I'll listen to
because you've actually given yourself the answer.
I'll listen to
and
this
you've probably
podcast
you've probably given our listeners the answer as well. It's about part of it you need to bring into your life rather than lock it out.
Yeah.
And use that, and I use the word use. It's not use; it's be part of it rather than use it. So it's part of you, and and you're part of it. And I use that word it. It's the intuitive part of you which is outside that logical, egotistical mind.
Yeah. It's identification of the self with the, like I say, the not everyday consciousness. That's the problem, because if I think that I am this logical, scientific type person, then I'm not going to pick up on the inner knowledge coming out. But if I see that, I can, that my everyday consciousness has been trained to be rational, then I can allow it to be in the service of the intuition, the higher self. I think that's how I've understood it.
Yeah, combination. So I think this draws this podcast to a close, John.
I think it's a suitable place to end it today.
Well, I look forward for us meeting again.
Yes, I do too, and I hope our listeners think so.
So do I.
Well,
It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.